Hello everybody, it's me, the Fluffy Foxy for the channel The Creative Fox, and I turned into Mario for a short time. Don't know why, weird things happen. Today we are building the first roller coaster of this park, and I guarantee you it will be a giant, really thrilling roller coaster, as it's totally fitting to the park. No, it will be a really small children's coaster. I wanted to build a coaster which has the inspiration by the Eichhörnchenbahn in Freizeitpark Lochmühle here in Hassia, and I will build it a little bit bigger because Planet Coaster physics and Planet Coaster sizes are really weird. I tried building another one of these Zierer Force 1 coasters before, or in German it would be Zierer Force 1, and these have too high of a friction, and I tried to look for a setting or something where I can reduce friction and they don't pick up speed enough. So the coaster physics in this game are a little bit wonky because the coasters don't pick enough speed, so you have to build them much higher than they are in real life, and they don't keep their speed, so you have to build lower hills than you would need to have in real life. This felt really weird, but perhaps I just missed something. If you know about a setting where I can reduce friction on coasters, I know I can reduce friction on water slides and track rides, but on coasters I didn't find it. So if you know of a setting there, please let me know, because that would be actually quite good, so this coaster could be a bit faster. But yeah, it's a children's coaster, and in Freizeitpark Lochmühle it's the only coaster they have. As I maybe already said, the Freizeitpark Lochmühle is a very small park with petting zoo elements, adventure playground elements, some kids rides. For example, one of these Nautic jets that I built in this park. And with that I wanted to have another ride inspired by that, and this is this ride. I was a little bit unhappy, and I hope this gets changed in the next updates, because the original ride has these block cars and not the dragon cars, and perhaps this ride will then change. At the moment it is called Waldi Walddrache, which means Waldi the forest dragon, because I don't have any other choice than to use this dragon car. I have seen at Airtime Cinema that he used the Multiverse coaster to build a children's coaster, but that reminded me more of, for example, an ENF Myler family or kiddie coaster, and this is why I didn't take that one. I wanted to have a Zierer Force 1 because the actual ride, the inspiration, is also a Zierer Force 1 coaster. Another thing that is a bit weird or wonky is the scaling again. We have a game where we can scale objects now, but the coaster stations are huge. The smaller Zierer Force 1 coaster doesn't have as big of a station, but this is the minimum size I can build a station in this game, which is I love the tools which I can use to make the queues smaller, and with that queue actually it was very possible to do that, but I of course would wish to have more of the controls for the queues that we have for the paths, because fiddling around with queues is a little bit complicated at the moment and a little bit fiddly, even more fiddly than using the path tool. I also saw the trick that I used here from Airtime Cinema. If there is too much, as Tagi 3D says, tension in a path complex, perhaps you can just delete the paths that exhibit tension on the paths, then edit the part that you wanted to edit, and then connect the path again, redo the deleted path. With that, you can actually try to get your vertices away from the path tension, as he calls it, because the path actually asserts some kind of tension on vertices that are there. And if one vertex sticks to another, you can actually not change the vertex from one path independently from the other path. So delete the other path, then choose the vertex you want to edit, and then redo the other path. That actually works. This fence here is also very much inspired by the fencing around Eichhörnchenbahn, and I wanted to have some more inspiration by Eichhörnchenbahn, which didn't work because at the moment I actually think we are missing some props in the game. Some small, more generic statues, for example. Every statue that is slightly generic is always a statue of King Coaster, for example. But we don't have stuff like garden gnomes or animals or generic statues and props and centerpieces that we can set. We of course have great centerpieces for mythology theme, for the Viking theme. We can build big statues and all of that, but the generic stuff, at least as far as props are concerned, are a little bit lacking. So on the Eichhörnchenbahn there are garden gnomes standing around everywhere, and you actually run between them and see them on the course, but here I stayed with the generic foresty theme. I wanted to do another backstage area, and with that I needed to expand the outside park road a bit, and I again used the cool trick to lift up the sidewalk and connect it then, but there were some problems with that, as you see, because I tried to connect parts of these together, but the tension of the vertices were actually too high sometimes, so I needed to fiddle around with it. And here I used the trick again, deleting the street and then placing the path I want and then reinserting the street. The bigger road I built there is a preparation for the parking lot I will do over there, because there is where the parking lot for this park will be, and this will come in one of the next episodes. I started painting the roads or the path for the backstage area, but then had a problem because I didn't want to use the texture of the staff only path, but with this being an open path and partly connected to the main path, the peeps actually started walking there, which is of course something I didn't want because this is the backstage area where only staff has access. So I tried using the barriers at first, and I stayed with them for much of the pathing, but then I had the problem that I think also my staff won't go there because they won't go through barriers either. So I had to cheat a bit by using a small part of staff only path to actually have only staff entering the backstage area, and this worked out quite well. If you guys, gals and everything in between hear some weird noises at the moment, it's because we have some construction work going on downstairs, so I'm sorry for that, but it can't be helped at the moment. I wanted the exit path to be quite small, so I used the path editing tools to actually achieve that. And in the end it worked out quite well, even though I didn't gauge exactly how broad the path is. In Tagi 3D's tutorials, he actually says when there is a problem with people using the paths. I just had the good luck that the path I used actually had the correct width. I started theming the coaster a bit with some rocks, and after that I will do foliage and landscaping and all of that fun stuff and make this coaster actually look well. I am still trying to keep with the vibe and the design language of the rest of the park. So I'm keeping the mood very foresty, very wooded, and very overgrown. And I think actually that this is something I'm okay with. I use my ground cover scenery brush quite a bit here and then edit around what I actually want to have. I think that it's really important to have a clear imagination what you want for your foliage, because the Bronation people actually distinguish between nature and nature, and nature is when you purposefully design something to look like nature, and nature of course is something that grew like this naturally. I'm going for more of a nature vibe in most of the parks, except in the purposefully planted planters. But many of the stuff that is here actually grew naturally and got cut only when it, for example, had problems with clearance. But here in Germany, in these smaller parks, especially with the Zierer Force 1 coasters, it's actually not unheard of that some of the trees grew in that much that you can actually touch one of the leaves or one of the branches from the coaster, and the nature around them, even though it was planted once, actually grew in quite much. I then searched for cars because I wanted to have some parked cars in the backstage area, because some of the workers actually park their private personal cars there. So I searched for cars and a good truck to actually place them in the big backstage area. Stuff I have used or are going to use is the sets Hot Wheels by Stray PZ, the Big Car Collection Pack version 3 by CKM Car Designer, the Car Park by Axolotl God 64, the Car Parking Solar Panels by Vino55, the Car in Different Colors by Revolution, the Pellet Truck by Cyril Burns, and the Delivery Truck 3 by Kango. Some of these sets I will use in the following episodes when I build the actual car park. Here I only use some of them. Concerning the backstage area, this is where I start to use a small piece of staff pathing to actually have only the staff walk there, so I can circumvent the problem with peeps walking in the backstage area. I started editing around a bit and then found that I wanted to have kind of a small wall or bigger curb there to hide the staff path and the transition between staff path and normal path. So I built a small wall there and then planted some nice laurel bushes there. I normally wouldn't have used laurel bushes because they are not of my palette, but in this case they just looked so fitting that I thought I can add them to my palette in this case, because they're for one use only, to be a little bit of a more wild hedge on both sides of the fences, and I will use it more often because I will use it now for the fence of the park also. In this case I had a little bit of more luck with the mulch pieces because they were actually much more easy to fit in there, so I could just make this small planter area on both sides of the fence to actually plant the laurel bushes. In the end, I really like how it turned out and am really glad that this idea was more of a, as Bob Ross would say, one little happy accident, because it looked much better than I actually anticipated. The backstage area is filled with the typical kind of clutter, like green waste, like waste bins, which brings me to something I really don't understand. Why can't we recolor the waste bins? This is really weird. I created a little bit of a break area for the staff, and I tried doing my own small ashtrays over there, and still people are walking over this road because I missed the exit path going along the backstage area, so people would actually walk onto the backstage area from the exit path. So I used barriers there later, but I really needed to actually set them. I tried to use the ribbons of the drape set and then used more clutters for the backstage area. I really like that this game actually has so many good components for backstage areas, which I had problems with finding in the first game. This is something that is actually, in my eyes, better than in the first game when that launched. In the first game, backstage clutter was almost non-existent. I found this great UPS truck in the big car collection and I really love it. The best thing there is the kind of smart humor that is on the truck, because it says UPS, we try to deliver. And this is a really great joke, because I don't know who doesn't have this experience with UPS, DPD or DHL, where they don't even ring on the door and only leave a calling card that you weren't present. So I parked the UPS truck on the side near the walkways, because at that time the park got some delivery from UPS and perhaps the delivery person is just inside the staff building delivering something. And then I just placed a delivery truck, in this case from Viva la Vegan, and then one of these pallet trucks that I used to get some big pallets of stuff down from the delivery truck into the backstage area. There follows some more backstage clutter, like unused planters and defect benches. The next thing I wanted to highlight is this. This is really one of the most unnerving things in Planet Coaster 2 at the moment. I want to control D this, and then when I'm trying to change the height with shift and I let go of shift, the thing actually sinks down into the ground to somewhere weird. So to actually set the height right once, I would need to guess where it should be and can't. So I can only use the advanced movement tool for pieces like this. This is really unnerving and should be fixed as soon as possible. But this brings me to the end of the video. Of course, there will be the usual cinematic shots. Here I'm presenting the line of sight onto the coaster and the backstage area, and then present the coaster from different viewpoints. Do you want to have a POV of the coaster? I didn't think so, because it's a really small one and the POV would just be very short and not very interesting. But if you want one, ask in the comments for a POV. And of course, if you're still here, let's have our little game again. I would want you to write Waldi Walddrache in the comments. And if you're a non-German speaker, I'm really looking forward to see very many weird typings of the name. And with that, if you liked the video, I would be really thankful if you would give this video a like, subscribe to my channel, and I will say what I always say. I hope you have a good evening, good day or good night, depending on when you watch this video, and I hope you stay creative and stay fluffy. Bye bye.